Most of us teach in the same way that we were taught, and that's not always a good thing. So this presentation is going to focus on 6 strategies for effective learning that you can adopt in your classroom, usually without any fancy technology or without any fancy equipment or anything like that, and they're going to improve the learning of your learners. Our goal in teaching anything is to promote long-term memories, and the brain needs to be actively engaged to be able to do that. The hippocampus and the cerebral cortex are 2 parts of the brain that are really important for long-term learning, and you need to engage as many parts of the brain as you can. Most memories disappear quickly. As new memories are created, the brain tries to sort them, building mental models and connecting them with prior information, thereby strengthening the existing memories. As educators, it's our job to use strategies that will help embed information into those long-term memories. This presentation focuses on 6 of those strategies: spaced practice and interleaving, which are separate but often work best when used together; elaboration; retrieval practice; concrete examples; and dual coding. Let's talk about each of them separately. Spaced practice is easy to understand. Many learners study by cramming the night before the exam. While they may perform well on that test, their ability to retrieve that information later is poor. Instead, those who space their studying out over several sessions have more success on both the exam and information retention over time. Mass practice, or cramming, works more effectively if the test is done immediately after the cram session. When spaced practice is used, if the test occurs 2 days or longer after studying, it increases the storage strength, a measure of deep learning. We don't want learners to remember for 10 minutes. We want long-term memory. That's our goal. Recall the previous slide earlier in the presentation that showed how quickly we lose information after it's taught. This is an example of how spacing content on the job can interrupt that forgetting curve and solidify memories in the brain. So if you reinforce information after you teach it the first time, people will remember. Interleaving involves mixing up the order in which concepts are practiced. This is effective for both cognitive and psychomotor learning. Labs where only one skill is focused on for the entire time feel more effective than those where several skills are mixed up together, but the opposite is true. Plan learning to interleave concepts over time. Studying or teaching should be done in small time increments, switching from one topic to another. Then, in the next session, the order is changed. The learner learns to make links between each of the concepts. This allows them to distinguish differences between the concepts. This is like real life. No one ever knows what strategy will be needed on the next call. Spaced practice and interleaving often work together in practice. As information is repeated or spaced, it is interwoven with different concepts. This can be done effectively in simulations where concepts are taught several weeks ago are intertwined with more recent material. This is difficult for learners but results in enduring learning. Elaboration is a strategy that adds or deepens a memory. It can take memories with only a vague, shallow understanding and deepen them by having the learner process them more deeply. 3 strategies that enhance elaboration are elaborative interrogation, concrete examples, and dual coding. Elaborative interrogation involves questioning about how and why something works or acts in a certain way. It can help deepen understanding and get to the meaning of a concept, and it is an effective elaboration strategy. This can be used as an effective review strategy while helping learners prepare for an examination. Concrete examples can help learners understand abstract principles, but the instructor must be very careful to be explicit about key principles behind the example. You want to remember the moral of the story is not just the story. There are lots of ways to use concrete examples, and it's helpful to have the story relate to something that the audience can relate to. Pharmacology is another abstract concept to novice learners, and understanding the difference between 1 milligram per ml and 0.01 milligram per ml epi can confound those who have little understanding of math or chemistry. But if you use an example like a shot versus a mixed drink, often light bulbs go on. Dual coding is the way your brain combines words and pictures to make sense of it. The theory of dual coding says that when text information and visual information are combined, we learn better because our brain processes each of these types of information through a different channel. So when information is presented using both channels, memory is enhanced. Dual coding can be done with models, videos, diagrams, photos, or other visual aids. Providing a diagram, especially as related to anatomy with no words, is not as helpful as using one with words to identify the specific parts, as you can see here. Leaving the words off would only be helpful if you're doing a review. This is an example of an illustration that is not using dual coding to advantage. You can see that you have the numbers over on the right side of the slide, and then the terms are listed on the left side of the slide. So the learner's attention is divided, and the chance of them memorizing it is going to be much less than if you put them together. A mistake that many learners make when studying is to merely reread content that they've read before. This makes the information look familiar to them and gives them a false sense of confidence, thinking they know it, when in fact it hasn't been transferred to long-term memory. Research has shown that retrieving information is much more effective in embedding information in memory. Strategies for retrieval practice don't have to be complicated. You can ask them to do a brain dump, like writing everything down they learned in the lesson, use mini quizzes or polling, ask them to recall 2 things that they learned after a lesson or a chapter, use a think, pair, share exercise or others. It's been found that it does improve learning. So don't be a stick in the mud. Follow the science. It's not enough to use these strategies. You have to teach the science to the learners so they know why you're doing it, and they begin to use these methods in their own studying. Gone are the days when only asking a learner who fails, "How long did you study?" is enough. You must make sure that they're using the right strategies.